Okay, so you probably came here from my other video to learn how to set up DNS and port forwarding on your router and wondering what the heck is all that stuff. It's actually really simple. DNS is more than, it stands for domain name system, which is no more than giving a name to your IP address. Because an IP address is hard to remember, so it's easier to type in something like google.com. But you could still use Google's IP address, which is 172.217.14.174. And as you can see, when you hit enter, it still goes to google.com. So you probably think, well, just skip the domain name, I'll just use my IP address. That would work, except the problem is your internet service provider, like Comcast, Frontier, whoever it is, they actually keep changing your IP address. So you probably wonder, okay, if I got the domain name, it still goes to that old IP address. Well, they already figured this out. What they do is when you sign up for that domain name, they're going to give you a little app that runs in the background. Its sole purpose is to go on the internet and find what your IP address is on the internet and send it back to their domain system. So no matter how many times your IP address changes, it will still be the same name. Such as the IP address I used for Google. If they had a changing IP address, you could still type in google.com, but it'll take it to the new IP address instead of the old one. So that's really all there is to DNS. I'll show you how to set it up later. Okay, so now the next part, port forwarding. What is that and why do we need it? Well, you know that every computer on the internet needs an IP address to know how to get info routed to it. Problem is, you probably in your home have like 3 Android phones, a couple computers, whatever. That's a lot of IP addresses, and you only want to pay for one modem. To get multiple IP addresses, you would have to have a modem for each computer on the internet or Android device. So what we do is we have one IP address on the internet. That IP address is that of our modem. Then we use a router that splits the wire out to several different devices or wirelessly to Android devices. Okay, so your router will give each PC its own IP address, but these will be totally different from the one on the internet that your modem has. These are called local IP addresses. Now the one you might be familiar with is the one for your RM plugin, which in my case is 192.168.1.116. And then you also probably remember that there was a port number associated with the RM plugin. By default, you would put a colon, and it's 9876. And if you type that in, it's going to go to the web page for the RM plugin. So now the problem is, how do we go from the internet to being able to access one of our local IPs? Well, this is where port forwarding on your router comes in. You will type from the internet, you will be able to put in your internet IP address, which is that of your modem, and then with this port number behind it, it will know which device to route that request to, such as it will be the Android TV device that is running the RM plugin app on it. Once you set up the port forwarding in your router, then when you type in that domain name and it goes to your modem's IP address, your router will automatically forward the request to the proper Android TV device that the port forward is set up to. So that's all there is involved with that. Now let's show you how to set it up. Okay, first we'll start by setting up the port forwarding on the router. We want to make sure that this all works before we point a domain name at it. There's a lot of different brands of routers out there. I'm going to show you on a Linksys, which is pretty common. That's what I own. First, we need to know how to get to the settings of our router. If you have a CD, you might be able to pop it in and get to the settings. But for those of us that don't, there's an easy way to do that. An easy way to find the settings for your router is going to go to a website that's called setuprouter.com. So I'll just type that in. Click on this. Now on their website, they're going to have all the different brands of routers listed in alphabetical order down here. Mine is a Linksys, so I'd go down to Linksys. Then the next step will be finding the model number. Which, if you don't know your model number, just flip your router over. There should be a sticker that will probably say the model number. In my case, it's somewhere right here. WRT54G is the model number of mine, so I click on that. Okay, it shows a picture probably of what your router looks like. And here we need to be able to log into it to change the settings. So right here's the login to my router. It shows, because every router will have probably a name and password you have to put in to protect it from other people changing the settings on it. So to access my router, here's the first thing. I put this IP address, that's the IP address of my router, into a web page. So let's open up a new one here. And see it's 192.168.1.1. Now a lot of routers will use this same IP address, so if anything, just try this right off the bat. You might get to your settings right off the bat. Now, depending on the brand of your router, this page could look totally different. This is a special firmware I have, the DDWRT firmware on my Linksys router, but you might have a D-Link that looks like this. But in the end, we're all looking for the same thing, which is port forwarding. It could be under several different names. It might say gaming and applications. It might be under advanced, such as, go back to this D-Link. It's under the advanced tab. I can't show you every router because, like I said, there's like 100 different brands, 100 different firmwares on them. But if you need help, you can scroll down. You can use this setuprouter.com, scroll down the page. It'll show you how to do it on your own router. But in the end, we're all looking for the same thing, the port forwarding. As you can see, I don't see anything that says port forwarding on mine. But NAT stands for, I think, Network Address Translations, which is along the lines of port forwarding. So you'll need your username and login again to get to advanced settings. I already know mine. But if you don't know them, they'll also be on that setuprouter.com website. And then right here, first tab is port forwarding. It may not be on yours. And you won't have any here yet because you're setting up your first one. So we're going to hit add. And we get an empty slot. Now you want to forward your port from the internet to your Android TV device that's running that RM plugin. So let's give it a name. RM plugin. As you can see, I already got it above it. Now if you didn't change the port that the RM plugin was set up to run on, it by default runs on port 9876. I just click both protocols because I don't know which one it uses, so it'll let both through. Now the IP address that you want it to route to is the IP address of your Android device, which you may not know. So I'm going to show you how to get the IP address from your Android device. Here is my Android TV device, the screen, that I'm running the RM plugin on. Now I need to get the IP address from it, which is really easy if you're already running the RM plugin. You just go up here to the left corner, swipe it down, or I think I can just click on it. Okay, and you'll see here RM plugin with the IP address of this Android device, plus it has a colon and that port number. Okay, so now you have the IP address for your Android device for the RM plugin. we'll just enter that IP address in here. 92.168.1.116 in my case. And you also want to put the same port number here. We're not doing any advanced porting, so it's going from the same to the same. And then you will want to enable it. And you will just save those settings, which I'm not going to do because I already have it directly above it. Okay, so now that you've set up port forwarding on your router, you need to test to see if it works. So the first thing you're going to need is your IP address for your modem. That's real easy to find. You just bring up window and type in what's my IP address. First thing, it's right there. Easiest thing to do is copy it. And then you can come up to your, not a Google search bar, but come up to your actual address bar. You can paste it in. Now you'll also need that port number so it knows to go to the RM plugin on the Android device. So 9876 after a colon. It's correctly port forwarded. It's going to the RM plugin when using your actual IP address from your modem. Now if you're having a problem and it's not coming up, first thing you might want to try is actually taking that address and port number and go into your cell phone, turn off your Wi-Fi connection and put it in there, because some routers might have a problem giving it an address that comes right back to itself. Your cell phone is separate, and if you use the data on it instead of your own Wi-Fi, it'll be another source outside of your modem. Okay, so now if you're to this point, you know your port forwardings are working, and we're about ready to move on to the DNS. One more thing we might want to do, I really haven't found it necessary because my router hangs on to my IP addresses for my device really good, is to set up a static IP address for the Android TV that's running the RM plugin. That way, if for whatever reason it ever gets unplugged and the router loses the IP address for it, it will stay the same and not change, so it'll keep working. But that's easy. We'll just go to our Android TV device now. Back to our Android TV device. Let's give it a static IP so it won't change on us. First thing we need to do is get to our our connections. Sorry. Okay, here's my my Ethernet connection, because mine's plugged in over the Ethernet. Now, yours may look different depending on the version of Android. You might just have to hold your finger, or, well, I guess you're not using such. You'd either have to hold down on the Ethernet button, or you can just tap it and you'll have settings over here. Over here, I want to go to configuration. Now you see I have I can select static IP as an option. Now it's going to give me IP address. Here I'm just going to type in the same IP address that it's already assigned to it. Okay, that was its previous IP address. I'm just reusing that. Now for the net mask. That will be almost on every computer 255.255.255.0. Okay. Now that we have that, the DNS address. We're actually getting our DNS from our router. So the same IP address you use to access the configuration page on your router, you'll put here. In my case, it's
192.168.1.1, which may be the same for yours also. Okay. Now the gateway address, that's also the same thing. Since this Android TV box is connected to that router, we'll use that same address again, the 192.168.1.1. Okay, and hit next. And we should be done here. Oops. Oh, save. Okay, so now our Android TV box has a static address.
Okay, now that our port forwarding is all set up, now it's time to make a DNS account to give our IP address a name. So you probably just want to get a free one. I use No IP. That's a good free one. There's lots of them. You can just type in free DNS. I go to their page. And right off the bat here, you can pick whatever you want for a name, as long as it's not taken. So let's just make up a name. Any random PC name. And since it's free, you're not going to get .com. .com means commercial, which all the companies want to take, so they pay for those. So you're stuck with some of these names. I tried to pick something easy like this Zap2 or Hop2.org. And then sign up. Here you'll need to enter your email and password to make an account. Okay, so I entered my email and password that I chose. Now you gotta go to your email and confirm it. After you've went to your email and confirmed, let's log in. Okay, now that you're logged in, let's go over here and click on Dynamic DNS. Now you'll see your name you picked out, and it's going to have an IP target, which we know we need to keep updating. So we need that dynamic update client to keep telling it our new IP address. So let's click this. And here's the download page. We'll save that. Okay, now we can install that download we just did. And it's ready to go. Here you'll sign back in with your username. Now when it comes up like this, you'll just put check that, because that's the name we want to associate with our IP address. Okay, now it's time to test out if our domain name works. So if I type in the name that they give us, plus I'm going to put the colon and that port number after it, so it will direct to that RM plugin. And as you can see, it did, so it is working okay. We are all set up and ready to go. This was just an example I created using a fake email address and a name that's no longer supported, just to give you an example of how to set it up. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I'll try to help with what I can.